Hello, very good morning to you. We start with some unexpected news on the economy. UK GDP grew marginally in November, reducing the risk of the country entering a recession. Analysts had expected that the economy would instead shrink and said the slight rise was supported by the technology sector and a strong showing by pubs and bars during the World Cup. So monthly GDP, the standard measure of the size of the economy, was up by 0.1% in November. Now, this comes on the back of 0.5% growth in October, when economic activity returned to normal after the Queen's funeral. In September, the additional bank holiday for the Queen's funeral saw most businesses close, and it contributed to a 0.6% contraction of the economy. And looking at the broader picture, GDP fell by 0.3% in the 3 months to November. Well, this is what the Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary Peter Kyle told me earlier in reaction.
A sign of basically effectively no growth actually isn't a sign of success for our economy. What we need to be doing is having a much more fundamental rethink about how our economy is being run, link it to the industrial action at the moment, link it to the failure in public services. When you have 7 million people waiting for treatment on the NHS, that is 7 million people who are unable to fully engage in the economy, in work, who will be taking time off sick. So it's not just about the fundamentals of direct economic policy that we need to look at. It is the running of our public services in our country, which is preventing us from fully exploring our potential as a country and individuals out there in the economy.
Well, let's bring in our correspondent, Aurora, for more on this. So this figure marginally into positive territory, Mari, but that's still more than was expected, wasn't it?
It definitely is, Anna, and I think that is the kind of positive news of today. Is the expectation, as you say, was about 0.2% contraction, and now we've got 0.1% growth. So it is good news financially for the country. I think it's important to remember GDP is the kind of way to gauge the financial, the economic health of a nation, and therefore the fact that we've had growth in November. These are only monthly figures; they're not quarterly figures, so we still don't know about Q4 yet for 2022. But the fact that we had growth, and we also had growth in October as well, that is technically 2 months of growth, albeit very small. Therefore, it is kind of like a bit of light relief, I would say, for the government. Now, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, has spoken out in reaction to these figures. He said, "We have a clear plan to halve inflation this year, an insidious hidden tax which has led to hikes in interest rates and mortgage costs, holding back growth here and around the world. To support families through this tough patch, we will provide an average of £3,500 support for every household over this year and next. But the most important help we can give is to stick to the plan to halve inflation this year so we can get the economy growing again." So, there was a very cautious response there. I think the government are very much not wanting to get carried away with the good news. It is still a small amount of growth. But nonetheless, I think it is going to be, to an extent, a way the government can try and say they're proving that they can be trusted with the country's finances, and they are the right people for the job, especially after the fiasco of the mini budget we saw earlier in 2022.
OK, Mari, thanks very much indeed.